Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 83, How to Engage Students Online and How to Ensure Equal Access. So today I get to talk to one of the power duos that make up Wise Guys, and that is Brian. I'm so excited to talk with Brian. I've been a huge fan of Wise Guys, and he did not disappoint. In fact, his passion and enthusiasm for students and for learning is infectious, and it's really quite moving. I hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Hey, so today we are talking all about engaging students online and what we can do if we are faced with online learning or blended learning, hybrid, whatever your plan is for next year. Brian and I have a conversation about some things, tips and tricks that you can use when you are faced with that situation and how to really get your kids engaged. We also start talking about ensuring equal access for students because both of us feel very strongly about all children having equal access to materials and learning and technology and things that really make a difference when we are looking at education. And so we get on that subject, and as well as many other things that come up. I had just an incredible time talking to him. In fact, when we stopped airing the show, we went on to talk for a much longer time, and I'm like, man, there was some good stuff in there. It made me want to keep that too. But I never keep that when the guests, when they know that it is over, because I think that is very unfair. But I just enjoyed speaking to him so much. I thought about the conversation for days later. And also it was just a joy to see somebody that was so passionate about teaching and how much they just love teaching. And that is exciting for me. It's exciting to see. It's an exciting conversation to be a part of. And we are both together. We're presenting, but we both are presenting at the Whole Teacher Eclecticon 2020, which is taking place July 27th through July 31st, I think is the date. I don't know why I can't get that last Friday for some reason, and I always get confused with July if it has 30 or 31 days. The conference is a week, so you know that. And it is available right now. I'll link to it in the show notes. You are going to want to be a part of it. You can hear unbelievable speakers like Brian. You can hear so many other topics that are just amazing for the whole teacher, where we really take all the pieces of the teaching puzzle, and put it together and offer you such a wealth of information. There's 60 sessions, which is incredible. So basically the cost of the ticket is 38 cents per session, which is such a steal. And when you purchase Whole Teacher Eclecticon, you get $125 worth of free resources. So the cost of the $49 ticket is so unbelievably worth it, because you're getting more than double back what you paid. And when you buy through me, you are also receiving exit tickets for podcasts, or using podcasts in your classroom, which you know how I feel about that. I think it's such a great way to reach kids and to provide access for all readers. So you will get those exit tickets. They're digital, so you can use them for your distance learning, and you get them free immediately upon purchase of your ticket to Whole Teacher Eclecticon. I also announced, the winner of the free ticket that I was giving away. I posted that on Instagram multiple times and on Facebook. I talked about it on the podcast. I was giving away a free ticket, and Deb Montero won, and I'm very excited for her. She will be receiving that soon, and I will see her at the conference. I hope to see you at the conference as well. Again, I'll link to it in the show notes. I hope you join us. Let's get on with the show. So I'm excited to have Brian Wiltgen today from Wise Guys here to talk about engaging students in the classroom and online in the virtual classroom. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Welcome to be here. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you were here. I'm excited. I have been a fan of yours for a long time. So, so I'm glad you're here. All right. So let's first of all tell my audience a little bit about like your teaching experience. Cause I know you did, I think it was 4th and 5th grade for a really long time.
Yep.
And then you jumped into middle school. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, that was interesting, especially this year with everything that happened. But I was an elementary teacher for 21 years. I taught primarily at the 4th and 5th grade level for most of that time. And I loved it. I loved being with the elementary age students and I was excited, but there comes a point in your career where you just want that extra challenge or that extra thing to keep you rolling. And so last year there was an opportunity for me to apply for a 6th grade position, and middle school for a lot of people is like, are you crazy? Well, for me, teaching kindergarten is crazy. So
yes,
I'm like,
I agree.
I'm going to move up to 6th grade and I'm just going to see what happens. And I want to challenge. I want to learn new curriculum. I want to connect with more students. Being in elementary, you have a class of 29, 30, but at the middle school, you have 150. And so the more students I can touch and the more students I can reach, that's kind of my goal, is just to be there for the kids. So I really had a great year. Everything was going great. And then all of a sudden COVID struck and it kind of turned our worlds upside down. And I know we'll probably talk about that later about online learning, but I really enjoy the middle school level. My heart and passion is for kids around that age, 10 to 12 to 13. And they're just a fun group because number one, they get humor. And number two, they're starting to, question things. And I think that's a great age to teach students and to have them do a lot of inquiry-based learning.
I totally agree with you. And, I was a 2nd grade teacher for a long time, like 14 years, 17 years. I don't know. I've been in this since 1997, but I have been a media specialist. I was a media specialist for a year and a student support specialist for 2 years, and going back to the media center. And I have gotten a chance to work with all grades. Now, when I first went to the media center, like a couple of years ago, I was on the rotation, which was like a nightmare. I have no idea how, it was like a nightmare at first, and mainly because of kindergarten. Like I thought I was going to die. It was like herding cats. And I was super scared of 5th grade. But then as I got to know them, I love 5th grade. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, I had no idea how much fun they are and how they get things and how they can talk about things and the level, like the, depth that they can go. I don't know. It's just so fun. So I can totally see like making that jump to 6th grade. Like, I think that makes complete sense. The kindergarten would be and the older I've gotten, the less patience, I guess, maybe I have, like with younger. And I'm like, when did this happen? I've gotten so old that because the little ones I used to feel like Santa Claus, like they would just flock from wherever I was. And now, I mean, they're still really, really cute and do things like that, but I don't know. It's just different. So the world changed and it's continuing to do so, it feels like. And so I want to know, like, what are some strategies, the best strategies you can think of that are going to help engage students online? Because that was the biggest thing I've heard from teachers, is they had a really hard time getting kids to show up and to stay like engaged.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I don't consider myself a technological genius at all. I was born in 1974, so we didn't even have computers yet. So it was trial by fire. It was really under pressure trying to figure out different ways and different things to do with students. So our school had 2 different platforms. We had Google Classroom, but we also had Canvas. So those are 2 different management systems that you can use to send out work to students. Now, that's the easy part. The hard part, like you said, is getting kids engaged online. At the beginning of online learning, one of our biggest struggles was getting technology in the hands of our kids. Now, at our school district, we're very fortunate that all 6th graders have iPads. So students were able to take those iPads home with them. Now, the problem, though, was a lot of students didn't come that week where we decided to cancel school. And so we had to set up a separate date for students to come in. And then there's students that don't have Wi-Fi. And so we had to find hotspots for them. There's students that go between parents and things like that. So there was a lot of obstacles just in, creating an atmosphere that would be equal for all students.
Yes.
And that's something that's a whole different thing that we could talk about, equity and, serving kids online, because it's extremely difficult. And if I have a choice, I want to be in the classroom. Yes. But as far as engaging students, one of the things I did right away off the bat is we used a platform called Microsoft Teams. And Microsoft Teams is like Zoom or Google Hangouts. It's where you can visually see your students. And so I made it a goal, and this was like right away in the beginning, that, you know what, I still want to connect with them every week and see their faces.
Mhm.
And so I had 4 different classes that I taught this year. So I set up 4 different online times for students to meet with me. And I usually did it like on a Thursday for a half an hour. And the first 2 were just so amazing because the kids just missed everybody. And it was so
Yeah.
great to see all these little faces pop up on the screen and
Uh-huh.
people waving at each other. And, you know, and that was really great. But obviously that's not going to last forever. So then you have
Yes.
to get into your teacher's bag of tricks, and you have to think, okay, what can I do to keep these kids motivated? Because, okay, I'm putting homework out on my Google Classroom or my Canvas platform, but I need them to be engaged with it. So one of the things that I did is I also created a Google Slides with all my assignments. And the Google
Mhm.
Slides basically walk students through step by step what they had to do for each assignment. And then when I had my my Microsoft Teams meetings, I could walk them through sharing my screen and going through that presentation with them. And that really
Yeah.
helped like my visual learners or my lower level students, because not only could they see it on the screen, but they could also hear me explaining it. So I thought that was a pretty effective way to try to reach those learners. But then obviously you still have those students that are like, oh, I don't really need that. Why should I even join the meetings? That's where you have to
Mhm.
get creative. So I started to create online games. I don't know if you're
Uh-huh.
familiar with Gimkit or Kahoot, but
Yes. Mhm.
okay, but Gimkit and
Mhm.
Kahoot are very teacher friendly, where you can create like multiple choice questions and then students pick it. And Gimkit's one of my favorites because students get awarded pretend money, and they can freeze
Uh-huh.
people and they can do multipliers and they have streak bonuses. But these kids get
Oh.
really engaged and fired up. So the first one that I created, I think it was the 3rd week we're into distance learning, was about our school. So I threw in
Mhm.
some funny things. Like I have a very close teacher friend of mine. His name is Mr. Brooks, and he wears a bow tie every Tuesday. So one of my questions was, who's known as Mr. Bowtie, you know, and had different choices.
Uh-huh.
Tried to make it fun and engaging for students, and the students had a really good time, fun time, because they could see the leaderboard and they could see, you know, oh my gosh, you know, this person's higher than me. I'm going to freeze them, or I want to try to get, you know, the streak bonus. And so the kids
That's
really got
awesome.
engaged for that night. A lot of kids reaching out online saying, hey, are we going to do one next week? Is that going to happen again? So you could see the
Uh-huh.
excitement.
Yeah.
But obviously those can get old too. So then you have to pull into your other bag of tricks. And
Yes, you're
I
right.
created, I created what's called an online scavenger hunt. And these are actually in our
Cool.
Wise Guys TPT store. But basically, what a student has to do is you put an item up on the screen, and they have 30 seconds to find that item in their house, bring it back to the screen, show it, say the name of it, and then you give them points. And so,
That's
you know, if you
awesome.
have like 10, 15 kids on your meeting, it's funny. You
Uh-huh.
say, okay, all right, everybody, the next item is a toothbrush, go. And all of a sudden you see everybody running around and kids running
Running. Yeah.
into the screen, toothbrush, Jimmy. And then you're like, all right, I got you the points. And then we do about 10 rounds of that. And it's just so much fun. In the last round, it's fun because no matter who has the lead through the 9 rounds, anybody can win it. So on that
Uh-huh.
10th round, I'm like, all right, this one is worth 5 million points, you know? And so fun way, and, you know, we
How
clap it
fun.
and we clap it.
I did that. I did that actually. I did a scavenger hunt. I didn't even think about putting that on my store in TPT. And then secondly, like I didn't give him points. Like I don't know why I didn't give him points. It
Yeah.
was we were just like like yelling and screaming, but the points would make it so much more fun. Okay, I'm sorry. So keep going.
No, that's okay. That's great. So I wanted to have those every week too. So I created, I think there's at least 4 of them out there that are called
Oh,
online scavenger hunts. And they were just
that's fun.
really fun for kids. And the kids showed up every week, and it was fun because they remembered who won the week before. And they're like,
Yes.
you're going down, Tim, you're going down. And so, you know, it added a little bit of fun competition to it.
Yes.
So those are the main things I did to try to get up that engagement, was to just get them
Mhm.
visually seeing each other, you know, running around the house. Parents got
Mhm.
involved. It was kind of funny, you know, I had a couple parents, and I told the kids, I'm like, no, your parents can't help you. You know, this is
Yeah.
it was kind of a fun thing to even get the
So
families
true.
involved. And one of the unique things about doing these games, though, is that I had some students that were not doing any of the work online. Like
Mhm.
they just weren't doing any of the work,
They were doing
but
nothing. Yes.
they would show up for these games. And
Ah.
for me, it's like, okay, the student is really struggling with the work, but they really want to reach out for that connection, which is more important to me than, you know, turning an assignment in. But the great
Yes.
part was at the end of these team meetings, I could say, for example, hey, Alina, can you hang on for a second after the meeting? I just want to talk to you. And she would hang on after the meeting, and I'd say, hey, is your mom or dad home? And she would bring a parent in, and I could talk to the parents about the work that they're missing and connect with
Mhm.
the parents right there with how I
Yeah,
could
that's
help them
awesome.
to complete the work. But that was the hardest thing for me during this online learning, is not being there for the kids.
Yeah.
You can be there virtually online, but it's not the same as
Mhm.
being in the classroom, helping each student out. And there were kids that fell through the cracks, and it's really sad that even
Yeah.
if I did a phone call home, an email, or trying to connect with them online, it still didn't work. And that really is hard as a teacher.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think that leads us actually to like how we can make it more equitable for kids. But I think one thing, because I stepped in that kind of role, that support role, because I was a student support specialist last year, I actually dealt with behavior problems all day long. And so that was crazy and intense. And then I put out a course on Schoology. Our platform was Schoology, and then I had all the kids, like every kid. But it was funny because it didn't end up being the kids that I usually saw. Like they did come, but it was new kids that were like, well, I always wanted to go with you, Miss Debery, and I'm, which is so funny because I'm the person they have to go to when they're in trouble. But my whole objective was to make connections with kids, so I was actually happy that kids felt that way. Anyway, I called parents. Like we had a list as like on the administrator team or whatever of people that were like falling through the cracks, or kids that were not, because I'm in a school that is very diverse and very it's borderline Title 1. It's like almost at Title 1, but not quite. And so we had a lot of kids that were falling through the cracks. So we had assigned students, and we had to try whatever we could to make contact with them. Some of us went to people's houses and talked to them from outside the window. It's a little bit different with elementary because it's not, in some cases it's not as many students, but we all had like a list of kids, and there were parents that I texted almost every single day, and I got on with kids one-on-one and showed them the back end of how to do things, which was very eye-opening, because I would have teachers, and it was like explaining this to teachers. When they would create assignments, they would create something where you had to click on it and read the notes like in a Word document, and then go in and answer the question in a discussion post. And I'm like, this kid is clicking here, and then he doesn't have access to it in the discussion post. It's very confusing for him. And this was a fifth grader. I'm like, it's very confusing for him. He's struggling with this. Is there a way for you to like put it in the discussion, like take a picture of it and put it in the discussion? Because which is something that we all learned, like troubleshooting, that you could do, because the clicking in and out was making it, the kid was just getting so frustrated and didn't want to do it anymore. But we did things like that, and it did help some, but it didn't help everyone, and that's the sad part. So since we kind of went to that topic, which I think all of these engagement ideas are excellent, by the way. Like I think that makes a huge difference. But how do we make sure that that we provide for every single student? It really makes it very unfair for kids that don't have the technology. We gave devices to not every student, but to every family. We had one for every family, but we didn't have one for every kid. So that made it hard. Like whose education was taking a priority, like at a house that had 4 children in it. And so that came a factor. Our whole entire county, like we gave, our cable company gave the internet, like gave every family the internet. So that was a huge thing. And then we were giving out hotspots, and then like things like that. But it's still, I don't know, it still makes it really difficult. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree with you more. It's the equity issue is always going to be there when it comes to technology. We had students too in the same situation as you, where they just did not have access, even though there were iPads provided. Some students
Mm-hmm.
just didn't have access to getting to the school to get them. So we actually had our GSAs, which are our general school aides, drive them to their houses.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of things like that, where we got creative with, okay, if they can't come, we're going to bring it to them. But
Bring it
the
to them.
equity
Okay.
issue is so difficult when you're doing online learning. And our special education teachers, my hats are off to them. They were in an extremely difficult position trying to follow IEPs that require, one-on-one
Yes.
services. And they did a phenomenal job, worked unbelievable hours. As you probably are aware, I think I worked harder teaching
Yes.
online than I did in the classroom. And I really just hope that this pandemic is there's a cure for it, because I really worry about students if we have to start in the fall in the same way where we're teaching online, because we're going to have students, fall through these cracks again. And it's hard for us as educators to reach out and do more than what we're already doing. And I'm going to continue to figure out, is there more than I can do besides emailing, calling, team meetings,
Texting. Yeah.
text, I'm gonna do my best to try to connect with every student. And one of the things that we did is we did keep a running list, and if there were students that we could not reach, we sent those to our counselors, and our guidance counselors, I believe, did drive out to those houses. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, we did that. We had that too, because we had the IST team also, which I was on, was also like another team of people that were like, okay, these kids, like we still haven't gotten through to these kids. Like, what do we need to do next? What's the next thing? We had our school social worker. She went and made some house calls. So I think it's just difficult as we look at like what the future can look like, because we're really not offering, a fair and equal education. And not that equal has to be everybody gets the exact same thing, but people get what they need. And I think that that's really important, but a lot of kids are not getting what they need. And so that's where I struggle. In my state, we're talking about going back actually full capacity. I just spoke to my friend who's the whatever, in the district. And he's like, we're going back full capacity. And I'm like, how are we going to do that with little ones? And, the expectation is they wear their mask all day long, and we're putting plexiglass on desks. And I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know how, if you've spent 5 minutes in a kindergarten classroom, there's no way that they're going to keep those masks on. And what about when they're like all snotty underneath their mask? And what are your thoughts about that?
well, I don't like the snotty mask.
Yeah. Besides the snotty mask. Yeah.
It just pains my heart, because I love kids, and I love teaching kids. And I obviously myself, I'm not looking forward to wearing a mask or whatever the things are, but I really care about these kids. And like, my teaching style is not distance. I like to get with the kids, kneel down beside them, help them on an assignment. I like to be right next to them. And this is just, human contact is so essential for kids.
It is. It's so important. And they're going to, and like the older kids, maybe they'll step back, but my little ones, like I went to school just like 2 weeks ago, and there was a family coming in, and the kindergartner, who was now going into first grade, came running to me right in front of the parent and wrapped his arms around me. And I hugged him right back. I'm like, I just looked at the mom and smiled, and I just hugged him right back, because I'm like, I'm not going to tell a kindergartner that he can't touch me. And I'm not going to back up away from a kindergartner. He needed that. And all these kids, like, that's the thing that I wouldn't say there's anything positive about it, but that was a positive thing for me during the pandemic, was that I got to reach out and connect with kids, all kids in my school. And I got to be there when they needed an adult to talk to, when they needed somebody to be there. And that was important. And there were times that we played scavenger hunt, and we did Would You Rather, and we did all these other things, and we went online and looked at what are those, ATV, a kid wanted to look at that. We did stuff like that, because I'm like, he just needs to talk to someone. He came almost every single day, and there was no one home. So I was happy to be the person that checked in on him every single day. It's hard, but I'm not gonna not hug kids. So I don't know what to do in that sense.
Yeah, and I think the biggest issue here that we all have to address too is funding. Educators obviously across the United States have been working their tails off for hundreds of years doing the job that we do because we love it. But when you look at all the requirements that'll probably have to be put in place, if there's going to be any type of distancing, the hiring of additional teachers, there has to be adequate education funding. Without funding for education, it's going to be even worse for these students. And if we want to try to be as equitable as we can, we have to have proper funding.
I agree. And they're talking about, cutting that. So I think that makes things look very bleak. And when we're spending $350,000 on making sure that we have masks and plexiglass, and we're not getting extra teachers, we're actually increasing our class size this year. So it went from 18 in the primary grades to 20, and then 24 to 26, maybe. I can't remember what 3, 4, 5 is, or 2 or 4 and 5. I don't know. So I don't know what the answer is in that case. So what do you think? Okay, so increasing funding, and also you said something in the beginning that made me think, like, even though you had a platform to put things on and to send it out to students, we, like, a lot of teachers, most teachers are not instructional designers, and some, even if, like, some don't even don't have the information about, like, what components you even need in a virtual classroom, like even learning style, or like learning design things like those. They don't know those kinds of things. So what do we do in that case, which also goes back to the inequity, because you have some teachers like are doing what you're doing. You're showing up 4 times a week, or however many times. Some people are showing up 1 time a week. Like I mean, it's not a balanced situation in that sense either.
Yeah, and that's so true. It varied even in my own grade level with teachers, with what they did compared to what I did. But it's like, it's the comfort level too. We have some
Yes.
teachers that just are not very savvy with technology, and it was really difficult for those
Mhm.
teachers to mitigate and figure out, what platform am I using? How do I create an assignment? How do I check it? And that's not teaching. That's technical stuff, and that's
No, you're
one of the
right.
hardest things about online learning is we're spending so much time on learning a technology where we should be spending it on engaging these students. And
Absolutely.
that's a really difficult thing for a lot of teachers. And I can't fault any of them because I did not see a single teacher give up. We
No,
went
no.
through a lot this year, and every single teacher I worked with did the best they could with what they had and with the knowledge
Yes.
that they had. And the knowledge they didn't have, they reached out and tried to figure it out. And it
Yes.
was it was just amazing. And when you look at what's happening in the world and everything, but teachers were there, and teachers tried our
Yeah.
best for our students.
No, you're absolutely right. That's true. I didn't see anyone give up. I saw so many people working to tears, actual tears, because they were trying everything that they could to make sure that they were there for their students. And I commend them, everyone that went through that, because it's a difficult thing. So I don't even know where we begin in the beginning of the year, because it kind of felt like this last part of the year almost felt like crisis schooling. Like we were in the middle of a crisis and we were doing the best that we could, but when we lost a whole quarter, like we lost fourth quarter. And so now what do we do if we go back to school this way? Because now we've got the beginning of the year.
One of the things,
What do you
oh,
think? What?
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I talk a lot, so I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's great. One of the things that we're doing at the middle school level is we're establishing a group called Camp Middle School, and there's about 4 or 5 of us that are going to create ideas for the back to school for the first probably week of school, and it's all centered around student engagement.
That's
Um,
great.
Before you even start teaching curriculum, these kids went through a lot last year. We
Mhm.
we don't know the home situations of a lot of these students. We don't know the work ethic of a lot of these students. But what we need to do is we need to show them that we care. And so that
Yes.
whole probably first week back of school is going to be, first of all, our 5th grade moves up to middle school. So 6th grade is where middle school starts. So, it's going to
Mhm.
be all about orientating to the 6th grade, giving them tours, helping them with their lockers, going through schedule runs, but just basically getting them comfortable with the middle school
Yeah.
setting, and then engaging and connecting with them. A lot of these kids probably won't be seeing many of their friends this summer if they're still social distancing. So when we get them back into
Yes.
school, they're going to be missing their friends, and we need to give
Yeah.
them time to socialize too. So a big
Yes.
part of our
To reconnect.
push, yep, a big part of our push is going to be just that social interaction, engagement, and a lot of activities that promote team building and community.
Ah, I love that. I think that's so refreshing to hear, because we in my district we're talking about doing like an accelerated first quarter where they're trying to catch up what they missed out on the last quarter. And yes, I know. Doesn't that sound stressful? That's how
It
I felt
does.
when I heard. I'm like that. I'm like, that's too much for, I go, that's going to be too much for teachers, and that's too much for students. And they need to reconnect to other students and to adults and to one another. And there's a lot of things that have been going on in the world that they may need to digest. And so I think, I don't know, that really, I don't know. I said as much as I could in a meeting that I was in about how I felt like that was a wrong path, that we needed, because we've got to work on expectations and we've got to build a community. And it's so important, especially if our community looks like plexiglass in the middle of desks. Like, there's a lot that we need to do in order to make them feel safe and secure. And because that is frightening in and of itself.
Kids aren't a test score. Kids are not based on assessments. Kids are creative. Kids are unique, and they need time to be able to have that. If you start a school year with just going full bore, it's going to be disastrous.
I agree.
From day one, you're going to lose kids right away, and the kids that are doing okay are going to be stressed out from the workload. And I really worry for districts that just want to go back and throw everything at students right away. That's not what they need right now. If you look at childhood trauma that's going on right now, it is really increased significantly. And we need to be there for the whole child. Yes, academics are important. I think we all want our students to succeed, but in order to get there, you have to have that commitment to community and that commitment to caring. If you don't have caring and community, you can't succeed.
No, you're right. It's like you have to have those things in order for kids to even be able to learn. Everything that we know about, even about brain research, talks about if they're not even able to retain information if they are in a traumatic situation, or they're unable to make those kind of connections. So I don't know what we're thinking when we think things like that. That it's bothers me. What do you think? Yeah, no, we're not thinking. When we're not thinking, at least we're not thinking about the child. We're thinking about the test score, which you reminded me when you said that. Like, did you hear about Yale and Harvard, like, not using the SAT score and the ACT score? Yep. So I'm hoping that with steps like that from Ivy League schools, that maybe, I mean, I know in California, they're not going to use them at all. Like, again, they're not using them in the future. So, which I'm very glad to hear that. And I don't even know where you are.
I'm Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just happy to hear that some people are thinking that isn't the end all be all, and that maybe they can look at the whole child instead of just based on one test score.
I would, and I know this is kind of off topic, but I would love if colleges looked at students based on letters of recommendation and what students have done in the community. You know, if you have an art teacher writing about a student that is just an amazing artist, but yet their GPA or ACT score isn't that high, should that permit, not allow them to enter a college? I don't think that's right.
No, I don't think so either. I agree. So what can we do? What can we do to make it like exciting for kids when they first come back? Something like what you were saying, like the camp, like the beginning thing, that's a good idea. What are some other things that we can do, that teachers can do when they're preparing for who knows what's happening next year?
It's so hard right now to not know what's going to happen, but like I said before, I think we just have to develop activities and different things that you can do as a teacher to engage your students. Mm-hmm. One of the things at a middle school level is we do have a big auditorium that has seats in it. So, you know, and obviously we don't know about social distancing and everything, but, you know, we can gather all the students in a large area and send a common message to them. And then we can break those students down into resource rooms. And, you know, that's where you can really connect with that resource class that you're going to have every day for the rest of the year, and do those activities that show that you care. And one of the things I think we also have to do, though, is we can't forget about the families. I think reaching out to parents and letting them know that you're there for their child and the year before is very difficult, and we're going to do the best we can. I know it's a lot of effort on teachers' parts, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 20, 30 minutes after school every day and just start calling parents and families and letting them know that, you know, we're here for them. We want to do what we can. And I think establishing those relationships early on can really help, especially if there's all of a sudden move to online learning. You've already established that communication with that family.
I agree. I think that's a very good idea. I think that's really important. It's crucial, honestly. So, how do teachers get themselves excited or motivated or inspired for the beginning of the year?
Huh, that's a great question. I'm naturally wired to be excited all the time. I'm super motivated. So for
Mhm.
me, it's not going to be too hard. I think for any teacher, the thought of being able to see a child face to face, I think that would light a fire under
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
That's why we're in the professions, because we love kids. And
Mhm.
so that would really help. I know there's a lot of teachers that are fearful of that though, that have underlying health issues and are really worried about returning to
Mhm.
school if there's no cure for the virus yet. So it's I guess it's a case by case basis. It depends on the individual, but I think any teacher would say, if I could have my students in my room and see them face to face, I would love that.
Yeah.
Um, that's my thoughts.
No, I think that I love that. So we definitely keep those kids in mind and it will help. But then there's another way, and that is that you and I are both presenting at the Whole Teacher Eclecticon 2020, which is a conference for the whole teacher, and it's in the end of July. And that is one way to totally get yourself inspired and motivated and like the feeling that we had at STEMCon was I can't even explain like the energy that was in the group, and that is something that I look forward to seeing again. Like I have a feeling it's going to be even better and bigger because it's a bigger conference, and I can't even imagine like because it was so electric and it actually is what got me over the hump of the whole thing because it was going on while we were at home teaching from a distance, and I'm like, it was reminding me of all the reasons that I ever wanted to be a teacher. It was just that powerful. So I'm really excited about this conference. And you're presenting. And what is your topic?
My topic is how to engage students in the social studies classroom. So we're going to be talking about culturally responsive teaching, how to incorporate that into your teaching. We're going to discuss online learning and some of the things I talked about during the podcast. I'll go through a lot of activities that we've created for social studies. We're pretty creative. We're beyond the textbook. Growing up, that's all that I was taught with social studies was through a textbook, and I told myself going through college methods classes that that is not going to be the way that I'm going to be teaching. And obviously now with the Black Lives Matters movement, we're finding all these stories that I didn't even know about. So I really want to bring in other resources besides the textbook. So we have some fun activities that we'll talk about, like we do a detective unit, we do some simulations with the Oregon Trail and
Oh,
taxation, created
cool.
some escape rooms. There's even something called hot seating, and people
Ooh.
that attend the conference will get this free for listening to our session. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because I want people to kind of sign up and see what it's
Yeah.
like. But I think you will really find that there are so many fun things you can do in social studies. It should be hands-on, interactive, inquiry-based, and I'm just
Yeah.
super pumped to be a part of this convention. And I couldn't believe that I was actually offered a chance to speak. So I'm super happy about it.
Yeah, no, your session sounds awesome. I can't wait to see it. No, social studies is probably the area that I'm like probably the weakest, I would say, in. But you made me want to hear more, want to learn because those kind of things, I love those kind of things. The whole breakout rooms, I think those are so cool. And like, oh, hot seat, I want to know what that is. Yeah. I'll have to wait and go to your session. So I'm excited. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Brian, for being here and talking about this and just being my guest. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate having the time. And we're going to get through this, and we're going to be better for it. And I'm just excited to be able to be a teacher, and I love kids.
Yeah, you can tell that. You can see it in your face. I think that's really cool. I loved talking to Brian. I hope that you found some value in that conversation. I think he was just full of information and he has such smart ideas that make me actually feel like I could teach social studies because I think it would make it so fun. And I love that. And I also love to see a person who has such a special heart. So again, thank you, Brian, for being on the show. And thank you all for listening. We both hope to see you at Whole Teacher Eclecticon 2020. Link in the show notes. See you soon. This one tired teacher is ready for some fun. I hope that you are too. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.